Good morning and welcome to Saturday School. It's Roger Norris from the Internet Business School here. Welcome to everyone around the world, across the UK, and also anyone who's catching up with us on our Saturday School YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the presentation today. So today I'm going to be talking about cookies. Hopefully, just click forward in time. There we are. Cookies. So it's really cookies. I know that's kind of like something that everybody has heard of, yeah, but some people will know what their functions are, but we're going to take a deeper dive into them to find out what cookies are all about and what different types of cookies there are, whether they're good or bad, and how they're used in advertising. And really importantly, towards the end, we're going to talk about how you can take control of your own cookies and what they say about you, so that you can stop seeing ads that you really don't want to see. Okay, but I'm going to explain all. And I think there's some parts of it, if you don't know a lot about cookies and advertising, that are going to shock and surprise you. A bit of shock and awe today. Okay, so first off, I'd like to know, before we get any further, whether you think that cookies are kind of like a good or bad thing. Okay, so what's your gut feel? Okay, so just going to launch a very simple quick poll. All right, one question. Okay, just need to know whether you think that cookies are good or bad. And I've given you 4 choices, whether you've got no problem with them, or whether you think there's good or bad cookies, or whether you hate cookies and avoid them at peril, or whether you just don't know yet, or don't have an opinion. Okay, so here's a quick question. Just go from your gut. Quick answer, and we'll see what people think overall. Racking in. There we are. We've got 32, 33. Right. Yeah, Lisa says they're bad. Chris says they're good for the advertiser and bad for the individual. Okay. We'll figure those out in a bit. Okay. Anyone else? I think there's possibly a few people who might be watching on their phones, and it's quite hard to see the polls, I think, on the phones. Okay, so we'll just crack that and see where we get to. And right, so hopefully you can see that. So yeah, we've got a couple of people who don't mind cookies whatsoever. Most people are sitting in the middle there, that there are good or bad cookies. One person who hates cookies unless they're chocolate chips, and we've got a few people who've just come to find out what they're all about. Okay, so I think that's probably about the right feel of what cookies are about. Yeah, you're going to find out there are good cookies and there are bad cookies. Okay, so that's kudos. Okay, just a bit of housekeeping just as we go along. Sorry, I forgot to mention. Can you, any questions, put them into the chat, please. Don't put them into the sort of Q&A bit. I think I have switched it off, but if you see Q&A, just don't put it in there because I can't see it. Okay, I'm not ignoring you. Okay, so cookies. So to understand cookies and what they're all about, okay, you kind of have to understand the kind of the advertising ecosystem, what the internet's all about. So cookies are actually, they're kind of just a little bit of code that sits in your on your web browser when you visit a site. Okay, and they're used by the internet to make it work smoothly. And in a little while, I'll kind of run through the history of how they came about. But essentially online, there are sort of 3 different categories of people. There's us, there's the readers, the people who are looking logging onto websites and looking for content. Okay, and we're looking for information from publishers, people who have websites and blogs, to get sort of interesting things and buy things, or pass the time, get entertainment. Okay, and then there's the advertisers, and the advertisers are there to sell us stuff or promote their offers, promote their ideology, and they want to connect with readers. So everybody, it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship. Everyone's got their own different desires. Advertisers, you can see, pretty much want revenue from people. They're there to make money for themselves, and also for the people that they're selling products to. You know, the publishers want revenue from their website, and they want growth, they want more people, so we place adverts to get more engagement. Okay, and as readers, we're kind of like, okay, I just want the information. Do I want all these adverts coming my way? And it's almost impossible to avoid. But you know, we do want, there are some good adverts, you know, that if you like adverts, you might be getting offers, you might be finding out about new products, new ideas, news to keep you up to date. So there's good or bad reasons for those adverts, but kind of understanding that there's a relationship there is an important factor. Okay. So what I'm going to do, there's a kind of a little video I found that kind of explains a bit more simply than I could, or more briefly, to explain what cookies are and how they help you.
Computer cookies make our experience on the internet easier, quicker, and much less complicated. Imagine trying to log into your favorite website or social media account or email and having to remember and type in your username and password every time. It would be almost impossible. Just to cope and make it easier, you would probably start using the same username and password for every account, which would be very dangerous and compromise your cybersecurity. Cookies are essential for internet surfing. They help you and they help the website owner by helping to know their audience and customer. Cookies help identify and recognize that it's you and allow you quick entry, and they also help the website owner to identify the bad and malicious visitors who may be bots trying to enforce their way into the code of the website, looking for vulnerabilities to place malicious and hijacking code that will give you malware. Cookies don't identify you personally, and they can't tell who you are, but they can remember the device you are using, and thus make it simpler for you to use.
Okay, all about cookies. All right, that's cool. Let me just get rid of that for a moment. Okay, so cookies are essentially just a little bit of code that sit on your browser. So sometimes they might be referred to as HTML cookies or HTTP cookies or browser cookies, internet cookies. Okay, and essentially they're just a little text file that sits in on your browser to identify you. Okay, and when you visit a website. Okay, they're stored on your computer. Okay, so they're not stored in the cloud or on the other end, the other website. They're just on your computer or your device, and then the cookies allow each site to recognize you as a user who's visited the site before. Okay, so that cookie, as you say, it could keep you logged in, and it also keeps a track of your activities. Okay, so if you set particular filters on while you're browsing a store, it can remember those. Or if you're storing items in a cart, it will remember those. Okay, so that when you come back, you've got your stuff in your shopping cart. Okay, but they can have different purposes as well. Yeah, so as Chris says, okay, there are different purposes for cookies. Okay, and that's when you start getting into sort of third-party cookies and first-party cookies. Okay, so some cookies on that sort of individual basis are nice and simple, and they serve a solid purpose, but they've got a bit of a dark background. Okay, so let's try and explain a little bit more about where that came from.
Computer cookies.
Come on, move slides. Okay, right. Oh, there we are. Okay, so you've got sort of 4 different types of cookies, of the main parts. Okay, you've got the session cookies, which are just a very temporary cookie that sits on your browser and is deleted when you close the web page. And you've got the main type, which are the cookies that stay on your browser, called persistent or permanent cookies, which can do tracking, authentication, language themes, remembering about your how you interacted with the page, and also what the page was about. Okay, so, and this is where we start getting into the controversy. Okay, so there's first party cookies and there's third party cookies, and this is where we start getting into some cookies can be good, some cookies can be bad. So the first party cookie is from the website. Okay, so those are the ones which allow for the remembering what your login details were, what your payment methods were, your languages and themes. Okay, and also if you've got a website owner's got something like Google Analytics on their website, it helps collect that analytical data of what pages customers been viewing and where they've moved to. But where did that go? Sorry, I'm swiping my mouse around. Okay, but then there's these third-party cookies. Okay, which come from other sites, or they're shared with these third parties, and they're the ones that have built up over the years, designed to track your activity more and also learn more about you. Okay, and those tend to be the third party cookies, are the ones that kind of worry people more. Okay, because you haven't quite got the control about who's seeing what and who knows what about you. Okay, Joe, probably just to explain briefly. Okay, let's do some dispel some myths. Okay, of what cookies actually can and can't do. Okay, so cookies, yes, they collect information about you and they can track your behavior. They remember the products and ads you were clicked on. They can know your location and your device, and some of them can see very precisely where your location is as well. And they can be targeted in cyber attacks. Okay, but cookies can't obtain your personal information directly from computer. Cookies in themselves don't contain viruses, don't have access to your passwords, and can't make any changes in your settings. Okay, because they're just a little text code. Okay, so they're not, a cookie is in itself is not a bad thing, but you do have to be a little bit careful with them. I know if you've got sort of free versions or paid versions of internet security on your devices, you will get the occasional flash up of we found a tracking cookie, is like, this is a danger. Most of the time they're just trying to tell you that so that you'll upgrade to a pro version of their software, so they can make some money out of you. Okay, but you do have to understand what cookies are about so that you can make a reasoned decision about whether you want those cookies on your device. Okay. A couple of questions coming through. Billy saying, Rogers, does Google share our browsing details with third parties? I'm going to come to that, okay, a bit later. And Curie says, do you think free AVG antivirus software is just as good as McAfee? Okay, I think any of the free software is pretty good. You can use Norton as well, free. They're absolutely fine. And I think some of the sessions that I've done over the last few months, kind of, if you know more about what pages you're visiting and how to interact with them, you can save yourself an awful lot of trouble. You know, antivirus software a lot of the time is a kind of like a backup if you're just clicking buttons without really having a considered view of where you're going to and what messages pop up on screen, or should I open that that email? Should I click on that link? If you've got more informed information, you can avoid a lot of pitfalls. If you missed my presentation on spam a couple of weeks ago, pop onto YouTube and have a look at that, and that will teach you some good internet safety ideas. Okay, so cookies, let's have a look at their history, okay, where they sort of came from. Originally, and this will explain a little bit why they have a sort of a dodgy history a little bit, because they actually were released in 1994. And they were created by a guy called Lou Montulli, who was a web browser programmer at Netscape. And simply all they were trying to do was to allow people who visited their shopping cart on their e-commerce site to remember their details when they returned. Okay, so they were doing a simple job. And in '95, they patented the idea, and then it started going into the first sort of, well, I think it was the second Internet Explorer browser, i.e. Internet Explorer 2, had cookies in them. But the problem is that they didn't actually tell anyone that this code was there. And then in 1996, there was a big Financial Times article that got a lot of exposure, that found out about these cookies, and said, well, what's going on with them? And realistically, they kind of, the thrust of the article was that they didn't have an issue per se with that data, that cookie being on their device, because it made life a bit easier for everybody. But they were concerned that, one, it wasn't publicized, people weren't told about it, and there was also a thrust that, well, if this is happening, what else is on there? What else is in your code that we don't know about? What else can these cookies do? And that's why it started. You know, cookies were like suddenly a bad thing, and everyone was like, beware of cookies. So that's when the legislators started to move in, and they tried early in sort of '97 to block third-party cookies, and it kind of didn't work. And then people were coming to say, right, the cookies are actually safe, they're fine. There was a lot of sort of pushing to and fro from the different sides. You know, people wanted the advertisers and the publishers really wanted the cookies in there. to make their life easier, and so they can make more money. But the public were like, caught in the middle of this. And then there were a lot of anti-privacy campaigners that came in and said, no, this is a bad thing. And realistically, in the period of sort of from 2000 to 2010, it was kind of like the Wild West. There were all sorts of stuff going on behind the scenes with cookies, and the advertiser had figured out that the cookies actually gave them really valuable information about the websites that you'd visited, and where you were and who you were, and they figured out that they could use this information to almost build up a kind of like a digital fingerprint of you, and advertisers then knew that if they understood what each individual was interested in, then they could target adverts that were suitable to those people. So it really was a kind of a difficult time. And then, so what happened was I think in the sort of mid 2009, 2010, the EU directive and the FTC in America put out their first proper block and rules around third-party cookies, which said they had to have your consent to accept third-party cookies when you visited a page. Okay, and that's where the controls started to come in better, and that's where you started to see cookie pop-ups on websites saying, we have cookies. Do you accept these other cookies from third-party advertisers? And over the years, though, since then, there's been various other bits of legislation. Hold on, let's click through. But a lot of the players were not happy about it, because Google, particularly as one of the biggest advertisers, has made fortunes out of the information that they get from cookies. Google Ads is the biggest generator of revenue for Google, and Facebook have made a fortune out of advertising. Places like Facebook and Google are kind of, they do a little bit of publishing, but predominantly they're advertisers. They want they want revenue, and they want people to spend money with them. And they've got this really granular data on us from the sites we've visited and from these cookies that are flying around, and they're basically selling that data to people who want to advertise with them. So the whole business model and income models are built on that information. So Google is like, we love cookies, we want to keep cookies, but people like Apple particularly started to say, well, okay, we can take Google, we can pull the rug out from Google. And in 2015, they introduced a facility on their Safari browser to block third-party cookies. Okay, so that the Safari browser was going to be, safer, and wasn't going to track your interests. And then there's also, what's the other browser in the UK that is really Firefox, that is really strong on blocking cookies. And also then in 2017, Apple released something called their Intelligent Tracking Prevention 2.0, which disables the browser's coming in from browser cookies coming from third parties. You were still shown ads, but the data from you watching that ad wasn't shared back with the publisher. So there was no accurate tracking data or revenue attribution. And then in 2019, Mozilla came out with their options to handle cookies. And essentially, Google was coming under really big pressure to do something about cookies and the privacy in there. And in 2019, they announced something called their Google Privacy Sandbox, which was essentially an umbrella project for them to phase out third-party cookies from websites and from advertising. Okay, so Raj just put a question in saying, can you explain the various types of cookies again? Okay, and how these third-party cookies work. Okay, so these third-party cookies, as I said, when you visit a website, third-party cookies are there sharing your browsing information with people who are other than the website owner. Okay, so basically they're sharing, they're all going to be ad agencies or ad companies who want that data to find out what you're interested in, so that they can target and sell adverts to you. Okay, and find out where you are and how many children you have and what car you drive, and how old you are and whether you're married and when your anniversary is. They can almost figure out some of this information from your browsing history and the sites you visit and what search terms you put in. Okay, and again, towards the end, I will show you how you can control a bit more of that information. Okay, so essentially we're in the process now where third-party cookies are under fire, and the advertisers, Apple and Google and all sorts of other companies, are scrambling to try and introduce different processes that are acceptable to the legal environment, to us as individuals, but still allow them to generate income from their adverts. Okay, so we're in a bit of a sort of intermittent or in-between phase at the moment, and which direction it's going to go in, we don't know. But there is one fundamental, okay, is that it doesn't matter where you go, it's really hard to hide from adverts. Okay, unless you're a millennial and you've got really strong ad blocking software. Okay, but ads are out there all over the place. They're part of that ecology of the internet. It's how we get the free information from sites, because people are making a revenue online. Okay, so let's have a look at what the potential futures are, okay, for life after cookies. Okay, so I said that people like Apple are trying to kill cookies, because if they can kill third-party cookies, they know that they can really seriously damage Google and Microsoft as well. Would be seriously damaged from their whole revenue stream. So it's all part of that bigger battle of who's going to be the biggest fish in the sea. So I said that Google introduced this sandbox project back in 2019, and they started off with their idea was this flock. okay, which stands for Federated Learning of Cohorts. Okay, so they basically put out the idea that, okay, so they said, right, we'll get rid of third-party cookies, or we're planning to get rid of third-party cookies, but instead, we're going to track your into groups or cohorts. When I say you, I mean individuals based on your browsing history. So you're going to be popped into groups based on your comparable interests. Okay, which sounded, reasonable. But then the sort of privacy campaigners came out and looked at it in more depth and said, well, hang on a minute, if you can target and know and understand that sort of digital fingerprint of an individual, okay, that would allow you to potentially have discriminatory ad targeting. So it might be based on whether you're disabled, or your color, or your ethnicity, or sexuality, or religion. All those sort of things would be picked up from your browsing history, and it's just not on that you could be targeted based on those characteristics. Okay, so they got a lot of flack for federated learning of cohorts, and they've kicked it into the long grass in January 2022. They basically came out and said, well, this is why we put all these ideas out to the public, so that we can get everyone's views on it. So we're actually really good, and for us, and we're listening to your feedback. So they tried to turn it around, and they came up with something else called Turtle Dove, which didn't last very long at all. And now their latest idea that they came out with in January this year is a watered down version of that federated learning of cohorts called Topics API. And this is the latest version that's being debated online, and it keeps on being, the launch date for it keeps on being put back. It was going to be in around now that it was going to be switched over to Topics API. Now it's 2023, but whether it actually gets out into the real world and gets released, I don't know. But it's one that we've got to keep an eye on. So the difference with this Topics API is they said, right, well, we're just, instead of looking at everything you've looked at, we're going to look at what you're interested recently. And so they're going to, every website that you visit would be kind of like assigned a topic category. So if you visited the Internet Business School website, the topic category might be internet marketing, or it might be internet marketing training. And so it would be quite a general topic, wouldn't be very granular. And essentially, when I, as an advertiser, I'm looking to advertise my product to a particular niche of people who are interested in certain things, then, if I'm trying to promote a course on eBay, say, I don't really want necessarily to pick up sort of eBay users. I want that sort of granular information that someone is selling on eBay or wants to earn extra money. And it's going to be quite hard with Topics API to get that information with any degree of accuracy. So a lot of the advertisers are saying to Google, Topics API, if you bring that out, then the value of your data and your advertising and Google Ads is going to be, why would I bother? Because I'm going to waste money trying to find the right customer. So effectively, my cost per action or cost per click on an ad is going to increase. So interestingly enough, this is the problem that Google are having with third-party browsers, third-party cookies. There is actually now an option in Google Chrome, with the Google browser, for you to actually turn off third-party cookies in the settings side. So you can go in, if you don't want third-party cookies, you can just switch them off completely. But by default, it's turned off. So you do have some control yourselves. But at the same time, while Google have been running into all this trouble over the third-party cookies, there's people like Facebook who have a kind of like enclosed ecosystem of their browsing sites. So Facebook and Instagram, when you sign up to use their services, you're signing up to say your data can be shared between those sites. So as long as Facebook are selling ads onto their platforms, they've got so much control over what they know about you. So they have something called Conversions API, which is effectively their sort of advertising learning platform. And if you as an individual on your Facebook site have a Facebook pixel and link that into the Conversions API side in your Facebook business settings, you can get you can give some really accurate information on the likes and history of your visitors and the people that you interact with, so that when you're advertising on Facebook and clicking on these sort of interest groups to try and refine your audience, you know that information is taken just from sort of Facebook and Instagram sites, and is going to be really quite accurate. So in theory, you should get lower costs with your Facebook advertising if you do it right. So Facebook are a little bit smug there because they've got their enclosed system and are hopefully steering clear of the issues that are affecting Google. Quick question. Raj says, does in private browsing have any advantage for avoiding cookies or avoiding tracking? So in private browsing will stop I believe third-party cookies, but it will still take, and it won't go into your history, but it will still have some tracking. I think when you look at Google Chrome, there's an open in private browsing, there's a warning that comes up that kind of says what it can and can't do. So yeah, if you don't want it in your history, that's fine, but you might still leave some digital traces from your in private browsing. Okay. And Curry asks, does a VPN help you? What are the advantages of VPN? Okay, I'm not kind of a VPN specialist, but yeah, I'm pretty sure a virtual private network does sort of block your locations of where you are. I'm pretty sure you'd have more control on it, on what cookies can do. Is anyone running VPNs who can answer that? Is a VPN advantageous for your security and blocking? Let's ask the audience. I'm sure someone out there will be running VPNs. Sometimes if they're doing Google ads, it can be quite advantageous to have a VPN. Chris says, yeah, they're good for security, but it does create some lag. So it's not necessarily as smooth a browsing experience. Is that right? There we are. So it's kind of a subject that we're getting into. I'm kind of like scratching the surface, but there's a huge amount of information out there and alternatives and ways around things. Okay, so yeah, VPN might be, if it's something you're concerned about in terms of cookies and security, go check it out. And their sales pages will tell you what it can and can't do. Chris says that, yeah, it can prevent interaction with the website due to lack of information. So yeah, you're not sharing that same sort of information with the website because it just can't read who you are and where you are. So if you want to surf around the dark web, then yeah, VPNs are the way to do it. Okay, Anwar said, I mentioned a term he's not clear about, which is the sandbox project. Okay, so a sandbox is a term for that developers use for a kind of like a site that you do your pre-release work on. Okay, so it's kind of like a test site. So I can, if I'm setting up a website that is not yet published, okay, I can work on it in like a sandbox mode if I'm building it, but it's not yet released. Okay, and there's a lot of big platforms. If they require an awful lot of setting up before you launch it, it's called a sandbox account, where you just test everything before publishing it and finding out that it doesn't work. Okay, so it's kind of like a development area. So when Google have said, we're looking at a sandbox project, they're essentially saying, look, we're just planning what's going to happen next, and putting ideas around and building the infrastructure in the background, but we're not actually making it live yet. Okay, no problem. Luther's talking about VPNs, saying McAfee auto switches on a VPN. However, some sites won't let you on unless you turn the VPN off. Okay, so a virtual private network has some useful attributes, but it also has some downsides. So realistically, it's a it's a personal choice depending on your needs. Okay, just back to the slide. Okay, because there is probably some terms here that big brands, big advertising brands, are looking at this kind of war around information and third-party cookies and advertising to the right people, and they're looking at alternatives. And there's one that's sort of coming up more and more, which is called programmatic advertising. Before I started researching this, I hadn't ever come across programmatic advertising. I'd never heard the term, but essentially it's almost like a I'm going to show you in a little while. Okay, when you go onto something like the dreaded Daily Mail website, and you go on and you start seeing ads for things that you've been recently browsing. Okay, so kind of like almost like a retargeting ad. Essentially, on those Daily Mail sites, what I see in that ad box is going to be very different from what you see. And essentially, there are some ad exchanges that are sitting in the background, and they are selling that advertising space to a particular company or advertiser that you have been interested in or that you've engaged with. So that's why you start seeing the sort of retargeted ads, because it's kind of like a Google Ads setup where you're bidding on getting your ad in that space, and it's all happening in milliseconds, absolute milliseconds, because as that page loads, that ad has to load based on your previous interests. Okay, so there's a lot of brands who are putting more and more money into that sort of programmatic advertising and smart ads. Okay, for us mere mortals down at this level, it's kind of like it's way up here. It's out of our league. But it's kind of interesting to see that there's a lot of other alternatives that are going on out there. In fact, what I might do is I'm just going to drop out of the slideshow because on my other screen, hold on, let's just stop the slideshow and show. Right. Right. Okay, on my other screen, hopefully you can see that, the paid advertising sites. Just got to find my chat box again. Okay, can you see that? Can you see the WebFX page? Someone say in the chat box. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Lovely. So this is just a simple page I found that details the number of the main advertising companies online. Okay, and there's people on here you'll naturally have heard of. Okay, so Google Ads, the king of paid advertising platforms. Okay, with their pay-per-click ads. Then you've got the Microsoft Bing ads, massive in America. Okay, but not close to the Google ad revenue. Then you've got the sort of Facebook and Instagram in there. You've got Twitter ads, you've got LinkedIn ads, Pinterest, and then don't forget the Amazon ads. Okay, so they're the kind of like the major players on your social media side. But there are all these other alternative pay-per-click platforms that you might not have heard of, but are part of your everyday interactions online, whether it's on desktop or on mobile. So you've got a Bidvertiser that sells banner ads on your site, so the stuff that are kind of like appears up at the top of sites, and that's going to be on a kind of like a bid basis based on your interests. AdRoll is one of the ones that you might well see in these little smart ads. You might see if you try and close the ad, there'll be a little word that says AdRoll underneath, because it's been sold to you by AdRoll, that little bit of advertising space. I'll try and show you. I'm sure we can find one, especially if we go to the Daily Mail website. Okay, there's something called Yahoo Gemini, which allows adverts through into Huffington Post and AOL and Tumblr. Buy Sell Ads is display ads for a very tight niche. I don't know too much about these guys. Rev Content is banner ads, but attracts users who are looking for informational content. Air Now is mobile ads, so push ads on your mobile. AdMob, that's another one you'll see underneath some of your ads on your devices. So they're selling smart ads and banner ads. Ad Colony is video ads. Ad Recover helps people, advertisers, get around ad blockers as well. Ad Blade. I mean, there's all these massive companies out there trying to get information and ads to you from advertisers by utilizing the information they've got on you. Okay, so it's kind of scary. It's a massive amount of information out there. Someone wanted the link to it. Yeah, there we are, Chris. So if you want to go and do any sort of extra homework and looking around at what's actually, what these big companies are doing for their advertising and what other alternatives are out there, this is a nice list to help. Okay, right. So, let's go back to a slideshow. Slide. Right. So basically, we have to now look at what this environment means to us as individuals. Okay, so we've kind of said that adverts are out there. You can't hide from them very easily. Okay, but if advertisers are now starting to target us based on our browsing history, and then we need a way of sort of fighting back and controlling what information they have on us. Okay, so if you're going to see ads in your browsing time online, well, fine. I want to see ads that might be interesting to me, not ads that really aren't. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this works, or things that you can do to make the ads that you see much more relevant and get rid of some of the dross. Okay, so the first thing is those darned cookie consent forms. Okay, right. So when you go on a website and you get these cookie consent forms, who are the people who just click on that I accept? Yeah, and just to get on, I want the information really quickly. Who's an acceptor? Okay, regardless. Just pop it in the chat. We've got a sometimes, we've got a not me, a me, almost always rejecting, me. Yeah, always. Yeah, sometimes. Okay, so some people are just going out there and just going, I click through this and I accept because I want, I don't want to waste any time. If I'm visiting a website, I'm visiting it for a reason, because I want some information. So yeah, just click that box, get rid of it, so I can actually see what, why I visited that site. Okay, some people are more cautious and going, oh, do I want to, what are these people actually asking from me? What am I accepting? Okay, and there's kind of like my rules for it. Okay, if I'm going, if I was visiting, okay, I'm a Sky customer, so if I'm visiting the Sky website, I've got an account with them, I haven't got a problem just sort of accepting cookies on those sites. Okay, because I know even if I they know enough about me from my viewing history that they can target the information, specific adverts to me. Okay, so I'm fine with accepting cookies on sites that I have a business relationship with, or whether I've bought something from. Not too much of a problem. Okay, but if I'm just sort of visiting a site that temporarily, okay, as part of research, I might not want to accept cookies. A case in point is, I don't know whether you've noticed this on social media, Simon and some of the coaches went out on a road trip in their very uncomfortable cars around the south coast, and we had to research the hotels for them, for where they were staying overnight. So we were looking at hotels all in various towns, what their parking was like, and, whether it was safe and secure, whether they were good enough, nice quality. So we were searching lots and lots of hotels, and now we are, we're now seeing across our browsers adverts for hundreds of hotels because they think we're interested in them. And it's just like going, I don't want to see an advert for that terrible hotel I accidentally clicked on as part of my research. Okay, so this is when it's going to be useful to have some control over this cookie consent form. Okay, now cookie consent forms, if you've ever looked past the I accept or accept all, generally have something called legitimate interest option, okay, or an object all option. Okay, so when you click on accept all, you are accepting all the third-party cookies generally that they've got on offer on their cookies, and you're saying, right, put all this code and all this, give all this information to all these other advertising companies. Okay, and I'm going to show you how many there are when you do that. Okay, yeah, and some won't automatically opt you in if you look to sort of manage your cookies on those opt-in forms. Okay, if you're not quite sure about this, don't worry, I'm going to drop out of this in a moment and look at some live examples and show you what it's all about. Some people have there's a bit that says sort of legitimate interest, which means there's the basic sort of first party cookies from this group of this company. Okay, to say I can store your data, but we're not going to have the third party cookies. So that's kind of like the legitimate interest side. Or they give you an option to object everything and say, no, I don't want any cookies at all, apart from some very basic ones for browser setup, etc., which you should be fine with. There won't be anything naughty in those basic cookies. Okay, but sometimes you'll come across a cookie policy which just won't let you object or use a legitimate interest. And whenever I find one of those those cookie policies, do you know what? I'm not going to visit that site because I just don't trust them. Okay, once you get used to this of what you're looking for, you can save yourself a lot of bother. Okay, so let's just drop out of there, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up some websites. Okay, so and just have a look at what the cookie policies say. So I'm going to start with the good old Daily Mail. Okay, what is going on? Kamikaze drone strike. Okay, so here is the cookie pop-up. Okay, and if you've never read these, it's worth just having a little bit of a look through based on what we've just talked about. And it says here, we and our partners process, store and access data like IP addresses, unique ID, browsing data based on your consent to display personalized ads and content measurement. The audience insights and product development use precise geolocational data and actively scan device characteristics for identification. Sometimes we don't rely on your consent, but rely on legitimate interest to process your data. Below you can see our partners, and you can object. Okay, so there's a lot of glop going in there, but you can see that they're talking about, you know, precise geolocational data and knowing a lot more about you. Okay, so what we're going to do, going to have a quick look on cookie settings. Okay, so I've got options here to save and exit or allow all. So on the first page, when you say the allow all, you're going to be allowing everything on here and marking everything as okay. So quick look, Daily Mail want to work with partners. Will we allow them to store and access information on a device? If you wanted to, you open it up or close it. Also open up the drop down arrow, and then you start seeing more. And these are the vendors that they work with, who are going to get your cookie information of what you're about. I'm going fairly slowly. But if you see here, this list is going to go on and on and on and on and on and on. Okay, so when you go into the Daily Mail and blindly click that accept all button, all of these people are getting your information about what stories you look at on that page, what interests you've got, which ads you might click on. So they're finding out so much about you. Okay, and all these companies are then going to use it to target you with adverts if you visit one of their pages with one of their ads on. So it's quite a lot of data to give up. Quite a lot of data. Okay. So these are the basic bits of the cookie policy, that they want to put a cookie onto your site, onto your browser, so that they can make sure that it's security and fraud and make sure that everything works properly. Okay. Vendors cannot conduct any different processing operations. It basically means that their ads will work properly on your site, but they're not getting any information about you. But there's that list of vendors again. Okay, and they've got this legitimate interest option. Okay. And they're saying that because you visited the site, yeah, we should just be able to make sure that everything's safe and secure. Okay, but do you know what? I might not want them to do that. Okay, so you could just turn it off. These are all the things that you're agreeing to. They've got legitimate interest for select personalized ads, create personalized content profile, select personal, measure ad performance. Okay, and you click on these boxes and more pops up, and it just gets really quite crazy, the amount of information you're giving across. Okay, by default, okay, at least the geolocation data is turned off when you have to accept it when you do the accept all, so there's no legitimate interest with knowing where you are. But you see, there's a heck of a lot of information that gets pulled across by that accept all. Okay, and I really don't want, actually this is the overall vendor list as well. Mail on Sunday, these are all the people who've got legitimate interests when you clicked set all, and this list goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay, so this is precisely why, okay, that you don't accept all the ads from the cookies from the Daily Mail. Okay, you just don't want them. Okay? And they make it a little bit hard to go on through. Okay, but I don't. On the store and access, we're turned off for that one. We haven't consented. We've removed the legitimate interest bit on all this other gumph down here. Okay, and then I can just save and exit. Okay, and I don't have to worry about being tracked by all the adverts on here. Okay, all right, but it's just saying, yeah, that's a lot of waste of time going through that cookie list. Okay, I wouldn't normally do that. Okay, I'm just showing you what is actually in a cookie policy. My basis is, if I go to a site and I trust them and I don't mind hearing from them, then I'll accept their cookies. But if I'm going to a site like the Daily Mail or a random research of a hotel, I probably don't want to hear about them again, or we'll get adverts from them. So I'm not going to accept cookies for them, and I'm just going to look for that legitimate interest route, turn it off, and save, and then happily have a look at what's on the Daily Mail. Not that I would happily look at what's on the Daily Mail. Sorry for any Daily Mail readers. Okay, because Daily Mail is all about sending you adverts. Okay, there's clickbait stories. Okay, and then space for their advertising. Okay, because I've got rid of those cookies, I haven't really got anything that's appeared in there. Okay, but let's get some nice clickbait stories. How Brad and Angelina's fairy tale marriage really fell apart. Okay, and in between here, okay, we go on this page, and if I'd accepted cookies, I would have advertisements here, and there'll be more advertisements, and then you'll get to the bottom of the page of all these long low lens photos, and then there'll be a whole tranche of other adverts somewhere. Actually, they're not appearing because I haven't done the cookies, but there will be all sorts of adverts appearing. Okay, so it's well worth just sort of getting rid of that cookie box. Okay, I'm just going to show another one because there's one on the Daily Record. Just see if we can learn a bit more. Which is a Scottish newspaper. Good old Daily Record. Okay, okay. So these use something called the reach cookie policy. So we know we're not going to accept on here. We're going to click on more options. Okay, this is when you're able to do things really quickly. I'm not going to bother reading any of this. Okay, I'm just going to click on legitimate interest, object all, which turns everything off, save and exit. Okay, so legitimate interest, object all, save and exit, and you're not going to have any bother from this site retargeting you or learning about your of whether you wanted to see a cat video or this story, or whether you were going about wanted to know more about Kylie Jenner. Okay, it's a nice simple way of controlling what information they get from you from that browsing visit. Okay, make sense? Okay, right, a couple of things came through on the chat. Mike says he's been rejecting all and selecting only what he wants for the past year or so, which is really good. Anwar asks, is it best practice to clear the browser cookies going forward? And is there anything we can do to deal with poor cookie management and any potential damage from that? Okay, I'm going to show you something in a moment if you want to kind of like reset and control your advertising history. Billy says, yeah, it is a waste of time looking through the cookie list. I don't need to. I just go for that object all and legitimate interest, get rid of it. We customers should not be put through so much trouble, especially if people are not tech savvy or disabled. Well, yeah, they're relying on people not knowing this information. It's kind of like how advertising works. There's plenty of knowledge out there that's being used by advertising companies, with clever marketing and profiling, and people don't understand that it's happening to them. What words are being used, what sounds, all sorts of stuff. I know if you, it's a bit off the track, but the well-known crisps that come in a tube with a lid, there is a kind of like a patent out there for the sound that tub makes when you open it. They've patented the sound because it's an important part of the triggering mechanism to make you eat more of those certain crisps. Okay, yeah, I'm not mentioning the Mancuri just in case I get anyone making a complaint. You never know. And it's like crisp packets. They're all in these foil packages, and you'd think nowadays for reducing plastic and that they would change the material used for crisp packets, and they really won't. They're going to avoid it at all costs because the food and behavior scientists know that the noise and the feel of that crisp packet has a kind of like a Pavlovian response in your brain and makes you eat more of them. And once you've opened a packet of crisps, it's really hard to roll down the top and put them away for another time. They tend to just get eaten right to the bottom. Okay, and part of that is the noise of that crisp packet. So there's an awful lot of sort of subconscious science going out there that you don't know about, that we're not aware of. And it's the same with this whole advertising scenario of cookies. Okay, Nico asks, if you eject all cookies, are you still able to visit the relevant website? Yeah, sure. I just showed you that. You can eject all cookies and you can still interact with the website absolutely fine. Some websites in America, if you're looking at American websites from the UK, they kind of say that if you don't accept cookies, you can't play this content. And so look, it's fine if they won't let you see that content. Well, I'll find that information from somewhere else. There are some sort of video sites that won't let you play videos unless you've accepted cookies. Mark says, any idea why websites don't actually remember your cookie preferences between visits? Highly annoying, and having to do cookie consent forms on frequently visited sites each time. Okay, might be able to show you something on that one. Okay, to give you a bit of an idea, where is the information? Let's just try this site. Fortune magazine. Okay, manage settings. Okay, Advertising cookies. Okay, this is a trust arc one. Okay. I must say this doesn't really give me much information. Required cookies. I want to see the actual cookies. It's not even showing me the actual cookies. It's just giving me a straight yes or no, so you can't see what's actually going on. Okay. What I was hoping to show you on these is some of these cookies on, you know, that big list of vendors. When you're clicking agree to those cookies, you're agreeing to a cookie length of 365 days, generally a whole year of that they can hold on to that data. It's massive. Okay, when you're doing affiliate marketing, you know that you might have a cookie length of, it's a first party cookie in affiliate marketing, so you're fine on those, but it might be sort of 30 days or 10 days length that cookie stays on your browser before it deactivates, or 60 days, say. These advertising cookies, 365 days is the general length of that they're allowed to stay on your browser when you're accepting all. It's crazy. See, I don't like the trust arc cookie setting because I can't see what's going on. They make it really difficult. Yes, I can reject all, but you can't see any sort of detail. So I tend to not like the trust arc one. Okay, but yeah, 365 days. So in answer to your question, Mark, why don't websites remember your cookie preferences between visits? It may be your browser is removing cookies. So if you're running a cookies, one of the antivirus softwares that automatically gets rid of cookies, or flags up, here's a tracking cookie, get rid of it. When you next visit the site, it's going to ask you for that cookie preference again. Okay, so it might just be something in your setup. Okay. Anwar says a quick recap on functional cookies. Please, Roger, and should we accept and reject all? Okay, so functional cookies I haven't got a particular problem with. That's the, you know, remembering your browsing history, and what device you're on, and how they, you know, whether you're on a mobile or on Google Chrome, and it might affect how the website displays on your device. Okay, it's kind of up to you whether you want to accept or reject all. Okay, most of them would go, I just sort of wouldn't accept them on the basis that if it's a site that I don't want to hear from again, or I'm not particularly interested in, so I don't want to see ads from them. Okay, I wouldn't get into it too technically. Otherwise, you know, every time you go to a website, you've got to make 100 decisions about whether you should, what you should accept and what you shouldn't. My general rule, you know, the website works fine with rejecting all those functional cookies, so I'm you know, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so right, let's crack on and show you some extra stuff. Okay, so we've got we know that these sites are picking up interest from you, from those cookies, and they're finding out about you, what you like and what you don't like. Okay, so if you have been a cookie consenter, these, you know, every time you've gone to a bell ringing site or browsed for a new car, or researched a product that you might want to buy on Amazon, or look for a review of something to decide whether you're going to buy it, you're leaving a trail of interests. Okay, so it's kind of important to potentially manage those interests that are on your sort of interest list as is. Okay, you can control it going forward by using you know, those cookie consent forms of rejecting and accepting, so that you don't add extra interests on. Okay, so let's have a look at the major sites. Okay, so Google. Okay, if you use Google Chrome, which is sort of 65%, 70% of the online users will use something like Google Chrome. If you go into your Google account, and under the settings and privacy settings, you'll find the Google ad settings. Okay, and you'll see that ad personalization is on, which is gathering information about you. Okay, and then there's this list. I'm going to show you my list of sites that Google thinks that I'm interested in based on my history. Okay, I did do a quick scan of it and I couldn't see anything dodgy. But okay, so Google, for the ads personalization, knows that I'm between 45 and 54. It knows that I'm male. It knows that I'm primary English. And then it thinks I visited a Nisbet's website, which is catering software, catering equipment. So it's going to show me ads from Nisbet's and from Samsung and My Picture and from Velo and OnBuy and GoGet and Etsy and Waitrose and Weight Watchers. And okay, and we're just in the A's here. Okay, action adventure films, airport parking and transportation. Yeah, about 3 years ago, I went on holiday and I had to book a airport car parking, and so I'm still going to see adverts because Google says I'm interested in airport parking. Aviation industry, basketball. Maybe I clicked on a video once for with basketball, so now I'm seeing basketball videos. Beaches and islands, beds and headboards. Birmingham, I'm interested in Birmingham. Okay, got all the blues. Okay, and you can see, oh, cats, of course. Comics, combat sports, not really. Okay, but these are all the information and profiling that Google has got on me based on my browsing history. Recreational aviation. I don't even know what that is. Rap, hip hop. Okay, and it goes on and on and on. Okay, and so this determines what ads that I'm going to see. Okay, so you can actually just go into this Google ad settings, okay, and go, what am I really don't want to see? There was one thing at Michigan. Okay, I don't want to see anything from Michigan, so I'm going to click on Michigan and I'm just going to turn off that interest. Metal music, don't ask me. Okay, turn it off, get rid of it. Okay, so with a little bit of time, okay, to begin with, it's going to take a bit of time getting rid of all these ones like hockey equipment. No idea. Funny pictures and videos, a bit of a time waster. Folk music, okay, turn off. I could reduce this to 10, 20, 30 interests, say, where I'm going to start seeing adverts which actually might well be relevant to what I want to see. Okay, might be interested, might show me new products, rather than all these. I don't beauty and fitness. Get rid of that. I'm beautiful enough as it is. Birmingham, sorry, Birmingham, you're out of here. Okay, and so after time, I could have a more interesting browsing experience. Okay, so you can do the same thing in Microsoft as well. If you've got a Bing browser, you go to the Microsoft account and you can see your ad settings and turn things off. There is a right at the bottom of the Google one. I can select to see fewer dating sites or gambling sites, pregnancy and parenting, see fewer weight loss. Yeah, I've got rid of that. I don't want to see gambling sites, see fewer ads. My wife says I don't want to see dating sites either. Alcohol, there isn't an option for see more. That's no good. So I'll leave that as it is. Okay, so you can just go through and sanitize the information that's on there, and it's worth it. It makes your online experience much cleaner and more interesting. Okay, down at the bottom, there's various bits that you can go in. You can install a browser plug to maintain your preferences, to opt out of personalized ads from Google, even if you've cleared your cookies. Find out how to save settings for the browser. Okay, so I'm not going to click on this at the moment. Okay, but if you've got Google, go to the ad settings and pop down here if you really want to control your cookies. You can save the settings in the browser. I suspect that's actually I will click on that one, because I think I said you can turn off the third-party cookies. So this is in Google Chrome. Go to the ad settings page, turn off ad personalization, save settings of the group. You can also turn off personalization by installing the interest-based ads opt-out extension. Okay, so you'll still see ads, but you won't necessarily see ads that are interested to you. Okay. Mike says, could you put that Google Ads URL in the chat, please? It doesn't actually, won't actually work. I tried putting it in the chat, I don't think, because it's kind of linked to my account. Let me just try and see if I can find a smaller part of the URL and see if that works. I'm going to pop that in. Bang. Let's try. So that's the link to the Google Ads. I think that will work for you. Yeah, Billy says you can turn the ad settings off and you can turn it back on to make the ads more useful for you. Yeah, so that's the whole thing about these cookies. Is it's finding out what you're interested in based on your browsing history. Okay, but you can turn off all that tracking. You're still going to see ads, but it could be for random stuff that you've got no interest in at all. Okay, so I think it's kind of, from my personal point of view, it's a toss-up, really. Yeah, Chris, that link I had is the authenticated ad at the end of that. That's what I had, but I don't think it works very well if I pop it into the whole chat for people to find those Google settings. So it's basically, let's just go into Google account. I don't think I'm going to see anything. Google account, data and privacy. No, as security. Where's the ad settings? There it was actually. Okay, but just have a look at that the link I give you should be enough. Just going to find info that you share, history settings, my activity. Okay, look, so it's under data privacy, ad settings. Okay, and there's the ad personalization. Okay, so that's the one with Google. If you log into your Microsoft account as well, if you use Bing, you can do the same thing with your Bing ads. Okay, and Facebook. Okay, so we said about Facebook having its own sort of internal API for ads. Okay, again, if you go into your settings, account settings in Facebook, you can find your ad preferences, and this is sort of what you will see. We'll see advertisers, ad topics, and ad settings. Okay, advertisers you've seen most recently. Okay, Russell Brunson. So I could hide ads from Russell Brunson. Rudy Moore, I've no idea who that person is. So I'm going to hide ads from Rudy. Peaceful Profits by Mike. No idea. Hidden. Zapier, I'm fine. Seeing ads. Toonly, I'm fine. ClickCease by Check. I don't know who that is. This is just based on recent browsing history. So I might have clicked on an ad accidentally or a video, and it now thinks that I'm kind of interested in them. Okay. Advertisers whose ads you've clicked. So these are the ones they think I'm really interested in. CO2 for you. Yeah, I'm interested in that actually, as a replacement for delivery to door from SodaStream. Lightning Fiber, yeah, I'm interested in that. That's the local fiber broadband service that's spreading out in Hastings and St Leonard's and Eastbourne, and I'm waiting for them to get to my street. They're taking ages, and then I can get super fast broadband or fiber broadband to the door, which would be like, that's good. I don't know, it's that low ticket offer guy, Entrepreneurs Circle, Pipdex. Okay, so Riverside FM, I've clicked on one of their ads, but I don't want to listen to them or that, or Pipdex, or Bluetti, because that's a home power station. I clicked on an ad. So it's quite possible to just sort of go through and sort of sanitize those sort of recent ads, so you don't see them popping up time and again every time you're going through Facebook Marketplace or browsing through your timeline, where every third post is an advert. Okay, and very similar to the Google side. Gladys, I know you've got to go. That's no problem at all. I'm very nearly done, so you can catch up with the bits at on the YouTube channel. Next Friday, it's generally released. Okay, you can go to add topics. Okay, and this is a kind of a bit like the ad settings in Google. Okay, and so this is the topics that apparently I'm interested in, based on the posts that I've opened in Facebook. A rooftop photovoltaic power station. Okay, so if I leave these active, I'm going to start seeing more ads based on my these interests. Okay, I was just doing a little bit of research on home power stations, just in case we start getting into power shutdowns this winter. I don't want to doom and gloom, but just doing a little bit of prepping. But if I want to see less about them, I can reduce those. Okay, it won't let me remove it completely, but I can see less, at least. Cosmetics and makeup, not really me. Okay, I know I'm worth it. But you can go through and sanitize these interests a little bit. Okay. And rather like the other side, they go on and on and on, because I spend my working life on online. So there's kind of quite a lot of things that I will click on, even if it's randomly. It's going to take a little bit of time to sanitize it, but this is what Facebook know about me. And when you as an advertiser are trying to target your Facebook ads to find someone who's interested in solar power and is also 45 to 54, based in the UK, I'm your man, apparently. Okay. I'm not anymore. Okay. So I'm going to see less of that. Trance music, I don't think so. Okay, it takes a little bit of time, okay, but you can go through and clean up your information, and it is a bit scary how much they know about you, as you can see if you use Facebook or Google or whatever. Okay, ad settings. Okay, more data used to show your ads, the data from your activity and partners. We can see, we can turn this off. Choose whether we show you personalized ads based on your activity partners. Okay, so I can turn that off completely if I wanted to. Categories used to reach you. Okay, I can turn off if I don't want them to catch me by my job title or my education. Turn those bits off. Okay, and then other categories leads to reach you is all the other bits in here that come from those browsing history. Okay, these are all the other bits that Facebook know about me in terms of my behaviors, that I have a birthday in October, that I'm a Facebook page admin, that I use Android, Samsung. Yeah, do you see how it all builds up? Friends of men with birthdays in 7 to 30 days. Oh God, someone's birthday's coming up. I better find out. Oh, okay, birthday present time. Okay, and then it's going to start sending me if people target their Facebook ads looking with a gift option for people who've got looking for a man's gift in the next month. I'm going to start seeing those adverts. Okay, so there are lots of ways there that you can go through and just sort of have a bit of control, okay, over what you see. All right, that's Facebook side. Right, I think I'm there. Now, if you want a complete reset, okay, from not from Google or from the browsers, okay, from all those kind of like accept all bits and all those vendors, you can go to this site here. Okay, your online choices, and what it does a quick scan of your browser and picks up which cookies you've got, third-party cookies you've got. Okay, and so you can see all these green ticks. I've got sort of third-party cookies installed. So I could turn them all off. Okay, so this list was a couple of hundred, or 80 to 100 there maybe. Okay, if I wanted a complete reset, I could just turn them all off. Okay, and start from scratch again. Okay, so there is a bit of a warning down here. If you turn off that interest-based advertising, you'll still see advertising on the internet, but you won't see anything tailored to your needs. Okay, so yeah, you could turn them off. You could delete all your cookies from your browser, which is fine, but just being careful with that, because sometimes you accidentally delete cookies that you may well want to keep. If anyone's ever deleted their cookies and lost their Wordle streak, that can be mildly devastating. Happened to me once. So there's a good and bad from having your doing it's kind of like a digital reset and removing all the options. Okay, so Pauline says, I can't wait to see my list of options. I heard DuckDuckGo browser is better. I don't know DuckDuckGo. I mean, it depends on your kind of like thoughts, whether you're very privacy concerned or whether you're sort of anti-advertisers. Okay, I'm kind of like in the middle, as I say, is like I don't mind cookies. But having adverts online is kind of like a bit of a fact of life, pretty much. I don't mind as long as the adverts I see are relevant. Okay, so my little bit of control on those cookie policies and going back through and sanitizing my list on my ad settings in Google and Facebook is just my way of taking control. Yeah, there's other people saying, Anwar says that DuckDuckGo is a decent browser. Chris says, yeah, it's a great browser. Good start. Research starter. I've never heard of it. Okay. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified. Internet privacy company that empowers you to seamlessly take control of your personal information online without any trade-offs. Okay. Let's do some research. Okay, tired of being tracked online, we can help. Private search, tracker blocking, site encryption. So it's kind of like, okay, so you can add it as a extension to your Google Chrome browser. That's because, interestingly enough, okay, DuckDuck, who are interested in privacy, I've visited their site using a Google Chrome browser. They've used a cookie to notice that I am using a Google Chrome browser and are showing me the information that is relevant to Google Chrome. So they've kind of made use of the Google side as well. Probably. It'd be interesting if I visited it from a different browser. What happened? Okay, but yeah, so there's an option for you. Okay, so yeah, DuckDuckGo if you want. There's lots of options out there. It's kind of dependent on your wishes. Okay, so right, that's pretty much it for cookies. Now we could go on forever and ever, going down rabbit holes with this. Not going to. So I've got one more thing to show you, okay, which is just a quick sort of preview of the Entrepreneurs Marketing Conference that's coming up. And there's some fantastic speakers on there. I think we're starting to send some emails out about it today. I think we've got 20 discount codes that we started with. So I just wanted to show you a quick bit of a funny promo. It's from Matt Wilson and Einstein marketers who do a fantastic conference event. Okay, and it's a complete no pitch event. Runs a few days in November. 30th of November to the 2nd of December in London. And they've got some incredible speakers. And it is a in-person event. And their keynote speakers this year are Steve Bartlett from Dragon's Den, who's amazing. If you've ever watched his podcast, it's brilliant. And they've also, they just happen to have Karen Brady there as well as the headline speakers. It's a really good high energy event. So let's just see why Matt is so good.
Generating leads and sales into your business used to be a lot more simple to understand than it is today. A few flyers, maybe an ad in the yellow pages, maybe even a few cheeky little cold calls. Ooh, cheeky. But while it was simple to understand, it was also hard and costly to get results. You'd have to pay for thousands of flyers to be printed, then posted. Then there was the issue that 9 in every 10 unexpected doors your flyer was posted through didn't even need the thing that you were selling. You'd have to pay for your Yellow Pages ad on the same page as every other provider in England, making competition fierce. And cold calling. Hi, I was wondering if I could have a few seconds of your time. Well, we don't even need to tell you about cold calling. The difference between then and now, which all you budding business owners and entrepreneurs will be happy to know, is that things have got a whole lot easier to get results. Thank you. Processes nowadays can be done with fancy software and automation tools.
Automation tools.
And not to mention the fact that there's loads more marketing channels at our disposal. But this advancement in technology brings with it a problem that we didn't have pre-internet. And that is that generating leads and sales into your business is no longer simple to understand. As a business owner or entrepreneur nowadays, you're expected to know how to generate leads online to compete in a social media fueled world, where the guy looking for a plumber in the Yellow Pages 10 years ago is now watching funny videos of plumbers on TikTok. Or reading about his old school friend's new pearly white veneers he's just had done on Facebook. You're expected to know what CPM means, CPC, CPL, LTV, ACV, which leaves you simply thinking, WTF.
What the fuck?
You've got Google ads, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, Snapchat ads, webinars, SEO, and funnels. All of which are amazing ways to get your business in front of your prospective customers. They make marketing more fun, engaging, and best of all, profitable. But is your business really using these platforms to the best of their abilities? I guess not. And that's the reason we created the Entrepreneurs Marketing Conference. It's a place where business owners, entrepreneurs, and marketers alike can get together once a year to learn some real practical, tactical, actionable digital marketing strategies that they can take away and implement into their businesses immediately to generate them more leads and more sales. Something most businesses wouldn't turn down. Am I right? We have world-renowned speakers teaching you the actual strategies that are getting results. Speakers like Karen Brady from The Apprentice and Stephen Bartlett from Dragon's Den. And not to mention Billie Jean is Marketing, flying all the way in from the United States of America. And these aren't some speakers that just teach this stuff. These are practitioners that actually do this stuff for a living. We have speakers covering topics such as Facebook ads, Snapchat ads, TikTok ads, and much, much more. We wanted to make sure that every person who attends EMC takes away at least one golden nugget that can help grow their business. There you go, there's your golden nugget. Thanks for coming, sir. There you go, there's your golden nugget. Enjoy. There you go, there's your golden nugget. But this isn't one of those boring events where you feel like you need to sit in on every topic. You might not want to learn about Facebook ads, TikTok ads, or Google ads. So we urge you to go to the bar, have a drink, catch up on some emails, network, and strike up relationships that will last a lifetime. Not just a night. We try to put as much focus on the experience you'll have at EMC as well as what you'll learn. There's a party on day 2 where we can get together, have a drink, have a little dance, and who knows what else. So, if you're looking for a little work trip this year, why not head down to EMC for 3 days of action-packed content, marketing strategies to help you get more leads and more sales into your business, and not to mention a party that will leave even the most seasoned drinker with the hangover of a lifetime. Tickets are on sale now, so click the link around this video and book yours today. I'll see you there.
There we are. So that's Matt Wilson's EMC. Apologies there if he walks the line a little bit, does Matt? Just on the edge of there, a bit of hashtag me too. But honestly, he's over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, he's built that EMC Marketers Conference up to a really big event. You know, and be able to get keynote speakers from the Dragons and from, you know, Karen Brady and all those other guys. It's a really, really premium event. Okay, I've put in the chat, there's a couple of we've got a limited number of discount codes that we've been given to get access. I know there is a premium ticket that gives you you know, dinner out with the with all the Dragons and all the other premium people. So, and I think it's a meal out in a Michelin star restaurant as well. Okay, so there's a lot there. Venues in, I think it's an O2 area in London. If you click on the page, it kind of tells you. Maybe the link has got lost in chat a bit. Just put that through there. Pop it in there. Okay, and you use the code DRAGON in the checkout to get 20% off your ticket. Okay, so that's everything done on cookies. I'm back again in I think about 3 weeks. I'm back on, and I'm kind of planning to follow up a little bit of what we've done here to look at sort of privacy and sort of GDPR and things like the Information Commissioner's Office, ICO, just to give a little bit more background on those issues and kind of what we as marketers need to be aware of when we're running businesses online. Okay, so that's the link through. Luther says that, yeah, the EMC is at the Intercontinental O2 in London, so can't be quite more central. Okay, so I'll see you in a few weeks' time. Have a great time. I'm off to go and sit in the sun and wait an hour or so for the air show to start. Okay, have a great rest of the day, everybody, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers all. Bye-bye.